So one of the biggest talking points I've seen so far for this NBA season is the fact that NBA TV ratings have not been that great so far. And look, it's extremely difficult to figure out why people aren't watching the NBA like they used to. But we're gonna try to figure this out.
Yeah, Adam Silver, every executive in the NBA, just watch this video. We got the secret sauce, the formula. We're gonna fix everything for you guys right now.
Before we start talking about the NBA's ratings this season, if you haven't already, make sure to leave this video a like, give us a subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on one of our videos. So like I said in the intro, NBA ratings so far this year have not been great. ESPN's opening night doubleheader averaged only 1.6 million viewers. That was down a whopping 42% from 2023. And across the board, numbers were just massively down for the opening week of NBA games. It got so bad that a Knicks-Pacers game on ESPN on a Friday night was outdrawn by a Louisville and Boston College game on ESPN2. Now, to be fair, the Knicks blew out the Pacers by 25 and Louisville had a 20-point comeback to beat Boston College, but a marquee game on ESPN between the biggest market in your entire league is outdrawn by a whatever clash of average ACC teams on a Friday night. That's not a good look.
Yeah, just some bummy ass ACC football. And also the Knicks, yeah, biggest market, had just shook up their roster. This is a historical rivalry. This is two teams that just played in the playoffs. Yeah, that's not a good look. There was some competition to start the year. Of course, the World Series, Dodgers, Yankees, the two biggest brands in baseball. People wanted to see how that would shake out. You had the presidential election. Everyone's tuning in to see all the crazy headlines from that. That's all gone now, and the ratings are still down.
Yeah, I'm sure Disney, NBC, Amazon, they all feel great about that.
Yeah.
11 years, $76 billion deal they just committed to the NBA.
Hey, at least inside the NBA is still staying, so we do got that.
Does anyone know if Ernie is making
We don't know yet. We'll know soon.
Cross that bridge when we come to it.
Come on, he's staying. I got faith.
And the ratings slump has been addressed by plenty in sports media. I mean, Gilbert Arenas, Shaq, even Adam Silver commented about it. And everyone's got their theories as to why it's happened. So, let's go through a couple of them and, see if us two guys from Portland can figure out what's wrong with this multi-billion-dollar business.
We got you, Adam Silver.
Hire us, we'll fix it.
Yeah.
We can do it. So, three-pointers. This is the one I've probably seen thrown around the most online. It was the theory that was posited by Shaq, by Kenny. Hell, we even have a video from way back in the day talking about it. And the gist of the argument is the NBA nowadays, it's just a three-point shooting contest. Teams just endlessly chuck up threes because that's what the math tells them to do. And there's some numbers to back this up. I mean, the Celtics, at the time of this recording, they currently lead the NBA in threes attempted per game. They're shooting a ridiculous 51.1 attempts per game.
That's out of control.
It is out of control.
51.1? That's over half of their shots. And let's not even go back like super far to the mid 2000s. Let's go back to 2016. The Warriors, best team in the league, invented the small ball three-point era. They would rank 29th in three-pointers attempted. They would rank 29th in three-pointers attempted if you took them to today's NBA. I mean, that's out of control. Like, that is the team you point to as the team that started the three-point explosion. And now they're nothing compared to teams today.
And the Raptors would be the only team behind them. And they'd be only behind them by half an attempt per game. Mind you that the average three-point percentage for teams hasn't changed much at all. Like in 2016, it was 35.4. Today, it's 35.7. And when I was researching this, actually, I went back to 2006 just for fun to see what it was. It was actually 35.8 in 2006. So I'm sure people will make the argument players today are taking, more contested shots. But the numbers say in 2006, teams shot a better percentage from three than they do today.
And it's just frustrating to watch as a fan. Like, some of these three-pointers are so damn dumb. I was just watching 76ers versus Heat, Tyler Hero. Like, the end of the first quarter gets a steal. It's like a 2-on-1 fast break. Dude just pulls up from three.
Because why not?
Misses the shot.
Yeah.
Like, possession ends there. Could have attacked the basket.
Used to be you look for layups. Now it's take that first available three.
I mean, that was Shaq's whole point. Like, most of the teams in the NBA today just played the same brand of basketball, drive and kick, look for three-pointers. centers take early and often threes. And compared to other sports like in college football, you got teams that air raid, you got teams that pound the ball, triple option, all that. Like every game might be something different. You got different conferences. The NBA, it's all basically the same. Sure, the Celtics are going to take more threes. Sure, some teams, 76ers, Nuggets, they're going to pound the ball inside with their centers. But for the most part, like I said, drive and kick, open threes, that's what teams look for.
I mean, just go back like 10 years in the NBA and look at how differently so many teams played. Like you had the Lob City Clippers, you know, fast pace, fast break, alley-oops all the time. You had the grit and grind Grizzlies, you know, defense, interior scoring, toughness. You had OKC, which was a lot of, you know, isolation ball. You had the Spurs with their beautiful basketball, sharing the rock, giving up a good shot for the better shot. Like that's 4 teams right there who play significantly different basketball from each other. And all 4 were good too. If everything is the same, like it just becomes monotonous. It just becomes boring. Like I love to eat pizza. It's probably one of my favorite foods ever, but if I had to eat it for dinner every night, I'm gonna be sick of it after like 3 or 4 days.
I could push it 3 weeks. I mean, to be Portland's a great pizza city.
Portland's a phenomenal pizza city. You would be sick to your stomach after a week.
I could do 2.
I don't think
we're gonna make it happen one day.
2-week uninterrupted live stream. Ben eats nothing but pizza. But I mean, you said it. Like watching the NBA nowadays, it seems like all teams are just playing basically the exact same way. But honestly, there's a reason for that. And this was Kenny's point in his video he made about it. Like it's the meta in the NBA right now. And this is something that like video games have to deal with from time to time. Like I'm a big COD Zombies fan, right? I love it dearly. I've got some posters on my wall of it. But around the time of Black Ops 4, the meta for a lot of the maps was Stone Cold Stronghold, the Helion Salvio, Pack-a-Punched, and just camping with that combo. It was boring as shit. I hated doing it, but if I wanted to get to high rounds, it was the most optimal strategy. And people in a competitive environment are always gonna take what they think is the most optimal strategy, even if it's not an entertaining one.
I mean, a similar example for our fans overseas, we call it soccer here, but you know, we watch the Premier League a little bit. Liverpool fan here, we're winning the title this season. Had to put that on everyone. But I mean, people have complained about Pep at Man City, like taking the joy and the flair out of soccer because everything is just so analytical these days. It's like you got to keep the pass, keep the ball moving. Like that's kind of what sports have become. You know, we got algorithms now, we got AI like telling you these players are kind of becoming robots. Sure, you still got a lot of things in sports. You got crossovers, you got incredible plays. I don't want to act like everything is taken away, but we're getting more and more close to just like do your job, do your thing, don't think about it because it's the most efficient way to play.
And at the end of the day, like, can you really fault someone for something like that? And like the perception in the NBA right now is that shooting threes, you get a bigger bang for your buck than if you shoot twos. And the craziest thing is like mathematically, that might not even be true anymore. Like I just did some really quick math. Like if you want to score 80 points, scoring only twos or only threes, if you just shot the league averages from 2 and from 3, it'd take you 74 2-point attempts to score 80. It'd take you 75 and a half threes to score 80 as well. So if you don't want to trust my quick maths, there's also some studies that have been out that have showed that like the 3-pointer is losing its value in the NBA. And part of it, I think, is just too many guys who shouldn't be chucking up threes are chucking up threes. Like I remember people were getting on Anthony Edwards to start the year, but he's shooting like 42.5% from 3. So I'm fine if he takes as many as he wants. But why is Luka taking 10 threes a game when he's shooting 32%? Why is Wemby taking 8 threes a game when he's shooting 34%? James Harden and Jalen Green can't crack 33%. Why are they both taking 8 a game? And Tyrese Halliburton is taking almost 8 a game. He can't crack 30%.
I mean, yeah, I've heard that criticism of Luka, like not just this year where it's even been worse, but past years in his career. And I don't mean to be Shaq over here, but how the f is Wemby taking 8 threes a game?
There should be no reason for him taking that many. Like he's a good shooter. I'm not trying to say any of these guys are bad shooters because they're not. But like the numbers are not lying. They're not shooting at an efficient level. So why do they keep doing it so much? And if the argument I'm going to get back is, well, you know, they're shooting contested threes or shooting tougher threes, that's why their percentages are down. Why are they shooting tougher shots? So this is probably the second most prevalent complaint I've seen online, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the three-pointers problem. Like, oh, you know, there's not that much defense in the NBA. You know, guys are soft. The rules favor the offense. There's too much scoring. Guys are lazy. They don't want to put in the effort on the defensive end. I don't disagree with the scoring point. I think there is too much scoring in the NBA today, at least for my liking. But the argument that I see people tend to put forward when they make this point is basically that, oh, scoring's at an all-time high, so clearly the defense is bad. First of all, scoring this season is not even the highest in NBA history. In fact, it's not even in the top 10. Second of all, the 1980s, a decade that is not quite as revered as like the 90s in terms of like, rough and rugged defense, but still a decade known for physicality, right? Every single season of the 1980s, NBA teams averaged at least 108 points a game.
I mean, I love a game where it comes down late, your 92, 88 type ball games. Like, those are great, but at the same time, like, I don't mind watching offense. Like, I like seeing three-pointers go in. I like highlight plays. I don't know. Like, sometimes you see guys on defense, you're like, really?
Yeah, okay,
Like,
that's 100% true.
But at the same time, I don't mind offense, and I don't think a lot of people are like, you know what? They just scored 130 points. I'm turning this shit off.
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing with like people who act like, oh, defense is at an all-time low in the NBA, I'm just gonna term this like the Big Ten West paradox. For anyone who doesn't pay attention to college football, the Big Ten West for the past 11 years was Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, Northwestern, and Purdue. They consistently put out some of the statistically best defenses in all of college football, and also statistically some of the worst offenses in all of college football. So there was always this big question by the end of the year. It was always, are these teams actually great on defense, or are they just playing inept offenses every week? Like, let's look at Iowa from last year. Finished 4th in the country in scoring defense, gave them only 14.8 points a game, 282 yards a game, and in the 6 games they played against other Big Ten West schools, they gave up no more than 14 points in a game. But when they actually had to play teams with an offensive pulse like Penn State, Michigan, or Tennessee, got beat 31-0, 26-0, and 35-0. So my whole point in all this is like, yes, NBA scoring is up. I'm just not sure if it's the players' fault. I think it might just be an evolution of the game of basketball. The rules are tilted towards the offense, and defense at this point just haven't caught up to it yet.
Well, JJ Redick made that point on First Take, like, trying to guard dudes on an island in the modern NBA sounds like hell. Like, you don't have 1 to 2 guys chilling in the paint ready to help you out. You're basically on that island. If you have a really good rim protector, sure, you got him, but you get beat on one dribble move, you're kind of cooked. So I can't imagine trying to scheme against these guys when you got like 3 or 4 dudes who can shoot on the floor. It sounds impossible to defend them on an NBA, so it makes sense scoring is so up.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see the NBA try to change some rules to, give defenders a chance. I think there's too many times, there's, ticky-tack fouls, a lot of free throws. Guys aren't allowed to be physical, especially guarding on the perimeter. But look, there's just some really good offensive basketball being played in the NBA today.
Injuries and load management, of course, these two go hand in hand, so we'll do them together. Injuries, they suck. When your favorite player gets injured on your team or just whoever, like, it sucks to see them miss all this time, and there's been so many players over the years, and this year that have been out with injuries, of course. Joel Embiid, Paul George, Maxey, the whole 76ers big three's been hurt. Wemby's now out. Kawhi and Porzingis haven't played. Zion has barely played. There's this perception that injuries are much more common in the NBA, and it does feel like that. It was hard to find like concrete data, especially for the stars, but it definitely feels that way. And when the NBA schedules out these national TV games, like at the beginning of the season, like, of course, the example you got to point to, Zion's rookie year with the Pelicans.
Oh God.
Almost every single night they're on national TV. He's never playing, and to this day, he's still not playing. It does suck. I will say there's been some times, especially in the past, where, you want to watch a game on national TV and it's like Zion's not playing or Kawhi's not playing or maybe Steph or LeBron's not playing. It's like, am I really excited to watch this anymore? Like, I might just throw it on in the background.
Yeah, I mean, injuries are awful, but I think most fans just acknowledge like they're part of sports. Like they happen, they're unpredictable. It sucks all around, but it's part of the game. Load management itself, though, needs to go away. I don't even think it's that big of a problem in the NBA nowadays. It certainly isn't as bad as it was like 5 or 6 years ago when it was real bad. And it also only applies to like 2 to 3 guys in the whole league at this point, but it's such an insult to the fans. Like, the thing that always gets me is like, I always got to go to games with my dad, with my family, 10 plus games a year as a kid. There were a lot of families, lower income, maybe, parents are struggling to get by, who can maybe afford to go to like 1, maybe 2 games a year. Because NBA tickets are expensive, especially if you're taking a whole family, probably got to buy the kids some snacks, maybe like a shirt or something. Like, that's expensive. Plus $30 for parking.
Yep, parking.
Gas.
It adds up.
It's expensive to go to games when you have a family like that. And if a kid goes to a game and their favorite player is sitting out, not because they're injured, but because they're just resting, I can't think of a bigger slap in the face. Like there was that instance a couple years ago where a kid and his family came from Argentina to Miami to see Jimmy Butler play and then found out like a couple minutes before tip-off, oh, Jimmy's resting. Now, Jimmy did a bunch of really cool things for that kid. Like I think they met him, took him out to lunch or something. Like they did a bunch of cool stuff for that kid, and that was a really great gesture. But he's probably not the only kid in that arena who was going to their one game a year and didn't get to see Jimmy play and didn't get all that stuff from him. If you're hurt, don't play. No problem with that whatsoever. I get it, it happens. I remember back in 2009, my dad bought tickets for me and my brother to a Blazer-Laker game. We were so excited to see Brandon Roy and Kobe play each other. They both missed the game with injuries. Like it sucked, but we understood that. Now, if they had both missed that game because they were just sitting out, that might have jaded me as a kid.
Yeah, I don't really know if this is the cause of the ratings. Like it plays a part because
it's definitely not a good look.
Yeah, you want to see the star players play, but at the same time, like I remember when load management kind of like really started going was like the early 2010s, I want to say, like Pop and the Spurs would do it, the Heatles would do it, and like, I don't know, it does hurt to see so many star players out, and especially these are on nationally televised games. I know they've tried to implement rules, but it hasn't worked so far, so I think it's just another factor you gotta consider.
And my biggest problem with load management, I think I've said this a couple of times, is like, where's the evidence it actually works?
There's not.
I get the logic behind it. Okay, if we don't play this guy as much, there's not as many opportunities for him to get hurt. But really, I can only think of like Kawhi's only season with the Raptors.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one instance you can point to where it actually worked, because all the guys who have been load managing for the past couple years, Kawhi, Paul George, Embiid, AD, Zion, they all still get injured. Real quick, two more complaints before we get on to the conclusion. And again, I'm grouping them together because I think they kind of go hand in hand, but it's player apathy and flopping. Now I'll get to the apathy part first. Seeing people complain like, oh, players nowadays, they don't care about winning. All they care about is money and being stars and whatnot. This just screams to me like old men yelling at clouds.
Yeah.
I mean, like, this is just nostalgia blinding people. I get players have outside projects, they have businesses beyond basketball, and there are definitely guys in the modern NBA who don't care about winning. Unrelated picture of Ben Simmons here. Like, not every dude who played back in the day had the competitive spirit of Michael Jordan. Also, the whole idea that like back in the day, guys didn't care about money at all. You know, it was all about winning. I mean, eternal rivals Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, like at the height of their rivalry, did like an entire like Converse like marketing campaign with each other to try to sell shoes. Dudes have always cared about money since the beginning of time.
I mean, Michael Jordan shot a whole ass movie during the 1996 NBA offseason.
And a bunch of other stars shot it with him too.
Yeah, got some buddies to come join. I mean, sure, you can point to Ben Simmons because he's just such an obvious example, and I don't really blame him. Like, dude doesn't really like hooping that much, it seems like, but he collects checks, so like, show up, I guess, and collect them.
Blame the Sixers for giving him that contract, not Ben for taking the contract he was offered.
Exactly, that's how I feel about it. And secondly is flopping. I mean, flopping is annoying as shit, especially when it happens against you, like you're rooting for your team and they flop and they get the call. Joel Embiid, sometimes watching him is nails on a chalkboard. Like, I get it, but I don't think people really care. Sure, some old heads are gonna be like, oh, I'm not watching this new shit and players flopping all whatever. I think flopping kind of peaked in terms of annoyance and maybe effectiveness, like early 2010s.
Prime
mid 2010s.
James Harden.
Yeah, prime James Harden. LeBron, you know, was kind of out of pocket back then as well. I remember D-Wade a couple times.
I was gonna say Chris Bosh, underrated flopper.
Yeah, Chris Bosh would do it too. Really, players have kind of gotten better at flopping where it's not as noticeable. I think the one is Joel Embiid. People will say Shea, but
Brunson.
Yeah, I don't think flopping's that big of a deal. It's annoying. I'd love to see him cut down on it, but are people really turning off because of a flop?
I'm with you. I'd love to see them hand out technicals for this shit after the fact like candy. Suspend guys for flops. I would love to see the NBA come down harder on it, but I agree with you. Like, in terms of the NBA's problems right now, like, is it even in the top 10?
No, it's not.
So throughout this whole video, we've basically been asking like, what's wrong with the NBA? Why aren't fans tuning in like they used to? And I'm sure there's a nugget of truth for each of them, but I'm gonna propose something and you can let me know what you think about it.
Okay.
I think this is just the natural cycle of the NBA. Like, the NBA has been a star-driven league basically since the early 1980s when Magic and Bird came into the picture. Like, the NBA before them was struggling with ratings. They were being outdrawn by college basketball. They had their finals on tape delay. Magic and Bird changed that. They ushered in an era where the NBA became more about about the league selling its players than selling its teams. When Bird and Magic were slowing down, they got their next big star, Michael Jordan, took them on that insane run through the 90s where NBA ratings hit their peak, and then Jordan retired and ratings fell off a cliff. Did the product change significantly from 98 to 99, 2000, 2001, 2002? No, it's just their biggest draw. The one guy who transcended basketball and was like water cooler conversation for people who didn't care at all about basketball wasn't there anymore. For the first time in 20 years, the NBA didn't have someone like that. And that isn't to say they didn't have any good players, they didn't have any stars, because they absolutely did. They just didn't have anyone on the level of Michael Jordan. And really, they didn't get the next guy until 2003 when LeBron came around. And then Kevin Durant arrived on the scene in the 2010s, and then Steph in 2015. And basically, they've been the three guys since 2015. Like, since 2015, if you were talking NBA with someone who wasn't really a basketball fan, 99% of the time you were talking about one of those three guys. Maybe you'd talk about James Harden every once in a while, but for the most part, it was those three guys. And I don't know if you've been watching YouTube recently. Oh, you have premium, so you haven't seen this yet.
Yeah, I got premium over here, luxury viewing experience.
I'm still in the dark ages. I still don't have premium because I've seen the new ad the NBA has been putting out. It's just pushing all the young guys. It talks about how, oh, the NBA is in a great spot right now. They got all these young guys coming up. It's probably the first NBA commercial to not feature either Steph, LeBron, or Durant in like 20 years. And that's intentional because the NBA knows that, its old guard is on their way out, even though weirdly enough, LeBron, Steph, and Durant are all having pretty good seasons this year.
Yeah,
their teams
out.
Their teams are all winning, but they know like they're all close to the end. And the NBA at this point doesn't have that next star on the way up that transcends the NBA like bubble, right?
I completely agree with the theory. I want to say that first. My problem is, what if they're not coming?
Okay.
Wemby is generational. He is going to be incredible to watch. I'm so excited for his career. I don't want to take anything away from him, but is he going to be the media personality, the guy you see on First Take ESPN arguing every office in America, LeBron or Jordan? Like, is that going to happen? I don't think so. I don't even think it's relatively close. And who are the other like young guys in the league at the moment? I don't want to say they're not going to be great players. They're going to have historic careers, but is Paolo going to be talked about in the way like KD is talked about? No shot. Anthony Edwards, I think, is very exciting, but is he this like generational guy that we're going to remember and be talking about, arguing about forever?
Maybe.
I think the NBA's future is in good hands in terms of the play on the court and all that. But in terms of ratings, the arguments, I don't know. I mean, the NBA might have just gotten insanely lucky that they had Jordan for this 20-year period. And then basically immediately after, they have LeBron for another 20-plus year period. I don't know. What if another major superstar doesn't come? Like, a lot of NBA discourse comes from LeBron versus Steph. Who's better, LeBron or Jordan? Kobe versus LeBron. Like, if you just completely take these guys out, I don't know if ratings will necessarily bounce back right away.
I mean, that's a fair point, but when Jordan retired in 98, was LeBron even in high school yet? Was he even a freshman?
That's a fair point.
So, I mean, yeah, and when you're talking about like the next transcendent superstar level player, there's been like 5 or 6 of those guys in the history of the league.
Yeah.
So to expect the next guy to already be in the NBA right now, I think that might be asking a little too much, but candidly, this is what you sign up for when you are a superstar-driven sport. Like, the NFL doesn't have this problem. Greatest quarterback in the history of the league, Tom Brady, retired a couple years ago. NFL ratings are up this year.
Crazy.
And
hardly even noticed.
Yeah.
And there's things we didn't even get into, like the importance of the regular season has declined. The play-in is kind of a factor into that. The decline of the All-Star game, that is unwatchable at this point.
Made a whole video about that one.
Yeah, so they have their issues, but I don't think it's like the players not caring or lack of defense or anything. Players still want to win just as much as any other era.
And people will also say like, oh, illegal streaming is why, viewership is down. But those sites have been around for a while at this point. And if you look at other sports, like golf had this problem. 2013 Masters drew 14.7 million viewers. The next year, 11.1 million viewers. That's almost a 25% drop. And the reason, Tiger Woods didn't play in 2014. And in 2015, when he did play, viewership was right back up to 14 million. It's the same thing in wrestling. I'm a big wrestling fan. And back in 2019, barely anyone watched wrestling because there weren't any big stars shows that really could connect with the fans and then expand to like outside of the wrestling bubble. Nowadays, you got Cody Rhodes being the guest picker on College Game Day. Roman Reigns is doing like late night shows. The Rock is back because of how hot the product is. Hell, you need a clear example. Just look at how hot the WNBA is right now. I mean, they just set records in attendance, in TV ratings for the past season. Like, why? Is it because the quality of basketball just vastly improved out of nowhere? I don't think so. They're basically playing the same game. They're shooting plenty of threes too, by the way. Nearly a third of all shots in the WNBA are threes. That's not quite as many as the men shoot, but still, that's a lot of threes. They're scoring at one of the highest clips in WNBA history, so what's the difference? Why are they getting all these ratings? Well, because they have a crop of young stars who are like breaking out of the WNBA bubble and capturing a more mainstream audience. You got Asia Wilson, Sabrina Ionescu, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark. Next year, they're going to have Paige Beckers too. Like, can the WNBA maintain their momentum that they've got this past year? That remains to be seen. I hope they do, because it just adds more basketball that we get to watch, especially over the summer. Just look at what the Dub's doing.
I mean, we got a friend that probably hasn't watched an NBA game in like 5 years, maybe even longer, but watches like damn near every national televised WNBA game. Part of it's because he bets on it, but it just proves like WNBA, is flying high at the moment.
When you rely on your talent to make your organization, you're gonna go through these cycles where sometimes you have the guy, sometimes you don't have the guy. Right now, the NBA is looking for the guy, and I really hope they find him.
So summary of the video, we just need another LeBron or Jordan. Let's get on it, let's make it happen, and let's fix the league.
That's our advice to Adam Silver. Grow another LeBron in a lab somewhere.
They might already be doing that. Let's not doubt them.
Working on it somewhere. That's the video, guys. Why do you think NBA ratings are down? I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving it a like, as it really does help us out. And while you're here, why not check out some of our other videos as well? And don't forget to subscribe. Synthetic Sports.